The numbers lie. They whisper sweet promises of growth, of freedom, of a golden retirement. But the truth is a brutal, blood-soaked grind, especially in the beginning. You, my friend, you're in the crucible. 3 years. 1,000 nights of biting down, of denying yourself that extra luxury, that fleeting indulgence. $500 a month, meticulously siphoned from your hard-earned paycheck, funneled into the digital void of your investment account. You click the refresh button, the screen's harsh blue light reflecting in your hopeful, exhausted eyes, expecting the roar of a financial lion, the triumph of a market guru. And the balance? $19,000. $19,000. It's not even a down payment on a decent car in this economic hellscape. It's barely a used Toyota Prius, a relic of your ambition, a silent, mocking testament to your sacrifice. Congratulations, hamster. You've successfully exchanged 3 years of your precious life for a four-wheeled box of depreciating metal. Then, the Slack notification, a digital dagger twisting in the wound. Your colleague, BioBo, a man who started investing a decade ago when the market was practically giving away fortunes, just posted $47,000 gain last quarter. Didn't even add new money. Market just did that for me while I was sipping Mai Tais in Tulum. The screen flickers, the words mocking you. 47 grand in 3 months. While he was on vacation, your blood boils. The laptop, suddenly a flimsy piece of plastic, screams to be hurled through the nearest window, to shatter against the cold, unfeeling brick of this rigged game. This, my friend, is the secret they don't print in the glossy financial magazines. This is the ugly, festering truth of wealth building. The beginning doesn't feel like building wealth. It feels like you're stuffing crisp, hard-earned dollars into a mattress made of quicksand, watching it slowly, agonizingly deflate. You're doing everything right. You're a poster child for fiscal discipline. Maxing out that Roth IRA, meticulously buying into those seemingly infallible index funds, living below your means like a monk in a world of consumerist hedonists. And what's your net worth doing? It's crawling, like a drunk snail, leaving a pathetic, glistening trail of meager progress across the jagged landscape of your ambition. What you're experiencing isn't failure. It's physics, brutal and unforgiving. It's the universe reminding you of its sheer, unyielding indifference. Imagine pushing a giant boulder up a mountain. Not some cute little rock you can kick around with a casual sigh. I'm talking about a 2-ton slab of granite, rough-hewn and defiant, a monolithic monument to human struggle. You throw your entire body weight against it, your muscles screaming in protest, tendons stretched to their breaking point. It barely shivers. It just sits there, a stony judge of your futile efforts. The first 100 feet are pure, unadulterated agony. Your legs are shaking, a violent tremor in your knees. Sweat, hot and stinging, blinds you, mixing with the tears of frustration you refuse to shed. You look back, a pathetic glance over your shoulder, and what do you see? 12 feet. 12 goddamn feet moved in an hour. This is you. From absolute zero to that elusive first $100,000. It's supposed to hurt. It's designed to feel impossible. Why? Because right now you are doing 100% of the work. You are the engine, the fuel, the gears, and the very ground you're trying to conquer. There are no silent partners in this phase, no market titans whispering sweet, nothing's into your ear. But here's the twisted secret that keeps people pushing, that separates the future titans from the crushed hamsters. There's a specific point on that mountain, a mathematical threshold, a tipping point of no return where the angle of the hill shifts just enough. The invisible hand of gravity, which has been your relentless adversary, finally, begrudgingly, stops fighting you. And then a miracle. It starts helping you. The boulder, that cold, dead weight, begins to roll. It's a slow, hesitant creak at first, then a low rumble. You're still pushing, still bleeding, but now the thing has momentum. It's acquired a will of its own. Then you hit the steeper part of the descent, and suddenly you're not pushing anymore. You're just trying not to get run over. That's the legendary snowball effect, whispered in hushed tones by the market veterans. But let me shatter your romantic notions. It doesn't start on day one. It starts after you've already bled for it, after you've left a piece of your soul on that godforsaken mountain. Let's dissect why that first chunk, that foundational bedrock, feels like pure financial torture. When you're starting from scratch, your investment returns are mathematically, existentially useless. Your brokerage account, that glowing digital scoreboard, is a dopamine trap. The green numbers, the red slashes, they're designed to hook you, to make you feel like you're doing something. But in the beginning, it's a mirage. You've got $5,000 invested. The market, in its infinite, abstract wisdom, bestows upon you a generous 10% gain in a year. You made $500. $500. That's a nice dinner, maybe a fleeting escape from the relentless grind. But it's not life-changing. It doesn't feel like your money is working for you. No, it feels like you're still working, busting your ass, while your money sits there, judging you, a silent, unimpressed spectator. The brutal, unvarnished truth is this. In the early phase, roughly the first 5 to 7 years for most of you hamsters, almost all of your account growth comes from your own raw manual labor. You're shoveling money into that machine, day in, day out, like a penitent in an economic gulag. Compound interest. Everyone romanticizes it like a benevolent financial fairy godmother. But in this phase, it's happening on such a minuscule base that it's basically invisible, a phantom limb you swear you feel, but can't see. You saved $6,000 this year, a Herculean effort. The market, with a flick of its indifferent wrist, grants you $400. Primal Brain registers this as, I did all the damn work for this paltry sum. You know what? You're right. You did. This is the phase where the weak quit. This is where the emotional hamsters jump off the wheel. They see their friends. Biobo with his BMW, Melissa with her European escapades, and they look at their own pathetic brokerage account. $23,000 after years of sacrifice, of denying themselves every simple pleasure. Their minds scream, what's the point? Is this all there is? The point, my friend, is that you're not building a sandcastle that will wash away with the tide. You're pouring the concrete foundation for a self-sustaining machine that will eventually run without your constant, brutal input. But foundations, by their very nature, are underground. Nobody sees them. Nobody congratulates you for pouring concrete into a hole in the ground. There are no Instagram posts celebrating perfectly mixed cement. The cold, hard math says that for the average person, investing consistently, it takes about 7 to 8 years to hit that first $100. That timeline assumes you're relentlessly feeding the beast a reasonable percentage of your income, that the market performs its average, indifferent dance, and, crucially, that you don't panic sell like a coward during the inevitable bloodbath of a market crash. 8 years. That's 2 presidential terms. That's long enough to forget why you even started this agonizing journey. But that $100 of grand, that's the activation point. That's the tripwire. Once you cross that $100 threshold, something shifts. Not in the world, not in the market. The whales don't even register your existence yet, but in the equation. Suddenly, a 10% of year doesn't just give you $500. It gives you $10, $10,000. That's real money. That's a used car appearing in your account, a digital phantom, simply because the market had a good quarter. You start to feel it. Your contributions still matter, of course, but now they're being amplified by something you're not directly controlling. Your money, that silent, judgmental spectator, has started pulling its own damn weight. The second $100. The climb from $100 to $200 typically takes about 5 years, not 8. 5. Same contributions from you, same grind, but the math, that ruthless arbiter of fate, has switched sides. The market is now doing enough heavy lifting that the boulder is visibly, audibly rolling faster. You're still pushing, yes, but you're no longer the only engine. This is when people start using the phrase, it's really picking up steam. And for once, they're not lying. The compounding that was a theoretical whisper for the first decade has become a mechanical, undeniable roar. At the time you're sitting on cheers to dollar for $500. If you're lucky enough to have caught a strong bull market year, riding the coattails of the institutional whales gorging themselves on cheap assets, your account might jump just $1 or even $1 from 12 months. Let that sink in. You didn't save $80,000. You probably saved a hard-fought $15,000 or $20,000 from your meager paycheck, and the market, that giant impersonal maw of capital, did the rest. Let me say that again. The market. This abstract collection of businesses, these behemoths run by soulless algorithms and predatory executives, businesses you own tiny, insignificant pieces of earn more for you in 1 year than you could save from your actual job. That's the crossover point. That's the moment of revelation, the shattering of the illusion. That's when you realize your financial future is no longer tied exclusively to your ability to show up and trade hours for dollars like a modern-day serf. People talk about financial independence like it's some distant, ethereal fantasy, reserved for tech bros who hit the jackpot or crypto winners who got lucky with digital Ponzi schemes. But the reality is simpler and infinitely weirder. Financial independence starts the moment your assets generate more than your labor. You might still work. You probably will. But the existential terror of, if I lose my job, I lose everything, starts to dissolve. Because your portfolio is no longer just a number on a screen. It's a second income stream, a silent guardian that doesn't call in sick, doesn't demand a raise, and doesn't answer to some faceless corporate overlord. So how do you get there faster, you ask? How do you hack the system? You can't hack compound interest. It's math, not a life hack dreamt up by some TikTok guru. But you can hack the inputs. That first $100,000, it's 80% brute force, 20% market returns. That means your only real lever, your only weapon in this financial war, is increasing how much you're shoveling into the machine. Earn more, spend less, save the difference. It's not sexy. There's no secret algorithm, no magical investing app. You're just trying to feed the snowball to give it mass as fast as humanly possible before it starts rolling on its own. The other lever is time, which you can't buy, but you can certainly stop wasting. Every single year you delay starting is a year you irrevocably lose at the back end when the compounding is doing the most work, when the snowball becomes an avalanche. Starting at 25 versus 35 might feel like a mere decade, but it's the difference between retiring comfortably at 55 or grinding until your bones ache at 70. Watching your body fail while your spirit withers. And here, my friend, is the mistake that kills momentum. The self-inflicted wound that cripples nascent fortunes. You're 5 years in. You've got $60,000 saved, a hard-won victory. You're exhausted. You see that sleek car, that gleaming status symbol, or you convince yourself you deserve a nicer apartment, a temporary balm for your weary soul. So you pull $20,000 out. You didn't just spend $20,000. You just set the goddamn snowball. You're back at $40,000. That might not sound catastrophic to your tired brain, but you're not just losing $20,000. You're losing all the compound growth, all the exponential power that money would have generated over the next 20 years. You're amputating the exponential part of your future. The only rule during the push phase is this: don't stop pushing. You don't need to be smart. You don't need to pick stocks like some Wall Street wizard or time the market like a digital oracle. You just need to be consistent, relentlessly boring, and patient enough to survive the excruciatingly dull part. The math doesn't care about your feelings. It will work if you let it, but it will punish you without mercy if you falter. So what happens after you've crossed that invisible, often uncelebrated threshold? Once you're past $500,000 or $600,000, the game fundamentally changes. You stop checking your account every week because, frankly, the swings are so massive, they'll either thrill you into a dangerous hubris or give you a heart attack. Neither response is productive. A bad month might see your portfolio drop $30,000. Good month might add $50,000. These aren't numbers you saved. These are numbers the market is just tossing around, and you're along for the ride, a passenger on a roller coaster of capital. This is the part nobody warned you about. When your net worth starts jumping around by more than your annual salary, your relationship with money gets weird. Deeply, existentially weird. You'll have this surreal moment where you lose what used to be 6 months of salary in a market dip, and you'll just shrug, make a sandwich, and go on with your day. Why? Because you've internalized the brutal truth. It's not real until you sell. Your coworker will panic about their $2,000 loss, their face pale with terror, and you'll nod sympathetically while privately thinking about the $40,000 your account shed last Tuesday. You don't mention it because it sounds like a humble brag, but it's actually just math at scale. Here's where the velocity gets absurd, where the smart money watches the hamster scrabbling for scraps. Let's say you're sitting on $700,000. The market has an average year, gives you 8%. That's $56,000 in growth. You probably contributed another $18,000 from your paycheck, still feeding the machine. Your money, that silent, tireless worker, just earned 3 times what you saved. You worked all year, showed up, did your job, traded your precious life hours for dollars. Your portfolio, sitting in the corner doing absolutely nothing, out-earned you by a factor of 3. That's not a flex. That's geometry. The curve you've been climbing finally bent in your favor, a sudden, glorious shift. People ask me, when do you actually feel rich? And the answer is never, because the goalpost moves. It's a psychological mirage. But there is a specific moment when you feel untouchable, and it's not when you hit $1 million. It's when you realize your portfolio's bad year is still better than your good year at work. When the market tanks 15%, a bloodbath that would send most hamsters fleeing for the hills, and you lose $120,000, but it still grew $30,000 because you kept contributing, because the Leviathan had its own momentum. You took a catastrophic hit by normal standards, a punch that would cripple lesser portfolios, and you still ended up ahead. That's when you stop flinching. That's when the fear finally dies. Now let's talk about what most people do wrong at this stage, because the irony, my friends, is brutal. You spend a decade clawing your way to $600,000, living below your means, driving the same beat-up car, saying no to vacations, denying yourself. Then you hit the number, that magical sum, and your primal brain screams, I made it. Time to enjoy life. So you buy the dream house, mortgaging yourself to the hilt. You finance the car you always wanted, a gleaming monument to your success. You book that trip to Europe, that escape you've earned. And suddenly your lifestyle costs have jumped 40%. You went from saving $20,000 a year to saving $5,000 because you're finally living like someone who has money. Except you just kneecapped the exponential phase like a surgeon with a blunt instrument. You're right at the point where the boulder was about to roll downhill on its own, picking up speed, a force of nature, and you decided to sit on it. The next $300,000, which would have taken 4 years, is now going to take 9. Why? Because you're barely feeding the machine? Barely maintaining its hunger? You didn't ruin your life, no. But you traded velocity for comfort. Maybe that's worth it to you. Maybe it's not. But understand the trade you're making. Understand the raw, compounding power you're sacrificing. The smarter play, and I know this sounds masochistic, is to keep living like you're broke for another 3 years. Just 3 more years to grind. You're at $700,000. If you keep contributing $20,000 a year and the market cooperates, you'll hit $1 million in under 4 years. Once you're at $1 million, the math becomes obscene. A 10% year is $100,000. 100 grand. You could stop contributing entirely. Let it sit for 20 years and retire with $6 million, assuming 7% growth. $6 million. That's generational wealth, a legacy. But if you inflate your lifestyle now, if you succumb to the siren song of instant gratification, you're extending that timeline by half a decade, maybe more. I'm not saying don't enjoy your money. I'm saying there's a specific, brutal window where sacrifice has asymmetric returns, where every dollar you deny yourself now comes back as a legion later. The difference between $700,000 and $1.2 million isn't just $500,000. It's the difference between I'm doing okay and I'm actually free. That gap closes faster than you think, but only if you don't let off the gas, only if you don't sabotage your own escape. There's also a psychological trap here, a hidden minefield that nobody talks about. Once your net worth starts hitting 7 figures, once you've accumulated a formidable pile of capital, you begin to feel like you should be doing something fancy with it. You see people on LinkedIn, on X, talking about real estate empires, about angel investing in disruptive tech, about starting a side business that becomes a unicorn. And you think, I have $1 million. I should be leveraging this. I should be playing in the big leagues. So you pull $200,000 out to buy a rental property because that's what wealthy people do, right? Except now you're a landlord. You're dealing with leaky pipes, midnight calls about broken toilets, demanding tenants, ever-increasing property taxes, and if you're unlucky, the soul-crushing bureaucracy of evictions. You traded a simple, automated compounding machine for a second job that pays maybe 5% if you're lucky and don't get sued. You turned your passive snowball into active, agonizing work. Sometimes, in rare cases, that's the right move. Most of the time, it's self-sabotage dressed up as ambition, a thinly veiled attempt to feel important. The boring truth, the inconvenient reality that shatters the dreams of pseudo-investors, is that the best thing you can do with a 7-figure portfolio is absolutely nothing. Let it compound. Don't get clever. Don't try to optimize. The S&P 500 has beaten most hedge funds, most landlords, and most entrepreneurs over any 20-year period. You already won the game. Don't blow it trying to win harder, trying to be a hero when you've already secured the victory. So here's the final piece of the puzzle, the ultimate betrayal of expectation. You're at $1.5 million. You're 50 years old. You've been at this for 25 years, a quarter century of relentless dedication. The question is no longer, can I retire? It's, what do I actually want? Because the math says you're free. A 4% withdrawal rate gives you $60,000 a year, inflation adjusted forever. If you can live on that, you're done. You don't have to work another day. The chains are broken. But most people don't pull the trigger. They keep working. Why? Because they're terrified the market will crash the day after they quit. Or because they've tied their identity, their very sense of self-worth to their job. Or because they don't actually know what the hell to do with themselves when the corporate leash is finally removed. The portfolio is no longer the constraint. Psychology is. And that, my friend, is a problem no amount of compounding, no market wizardry can solve. I need to be brutally honest with you about something most financial content creators, those purveyors of fluffy dreams, won't say out loud. The hardest part of building wealth isn't the math. It's not picking the right funds or timing the market or finding some secret, illicit investment strategy. The hardest part is sitting on a pile of money that could literally change your life right now and choosing not to touch it. Because at $1.5 million, you have options that would have seemed like science fiction when you started. You could buy a lake house, a sanctuary away from the world. You could quit your job and travel for 2 years, chasing horizons, leaving the grind in the dust. You could write a check and eliminate your kids' student loans, severing the financial shackles of the next generation. All of these things are mathematically possible. And every single one of them would feel incredible for about 6 months. Then you'd wake up at 52 years old, back at work, because you have to be watching your former snowball limp along at $900,000, bleeding momentum, a shadow of its former glory. And you'd realize you traded permanent freedom for temporary relief, for a fleeting moment of gratification. That's the test nobody warned you about. The portfolio doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care that you're tired or that you deserve a reward, a moment of respite. It only cares about time and contributions, relentless and unwavering. And the cruelest irony is that the closer you get to actual financial independence, the more tempting it becomes to sabotage yourself, to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Let me show you what I mean with actual numbers, because this is where it gets visceral. At $1.5 million, if you withdraw $100,000 for something big, something meaningful, something that scratches that deep psychological itch, you're not just losing $100,000. You're losing the future value of that money. Over 20 years, at a conservative 7% growth, that $100,000 would have turned into $387,000. You didn't spend $100,000. You spent nearly $400,000. And that's assuming you never touch it again. But here's what actually happens. Once you break the seal, once you prove to yourself that the money is accessible, that the vault isn't truly locked, you do it again. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. Because your brain, that traitorous organ, has recategorized it from untouchable investment to available resource. Psychologically, you've moved it from the fortified vault to the checking account. That's how people with $2 million end up back at $800,000, staring at their screens, wondering what the hell happened. Now let's talk about the flip side, because discipline without vision is just masochism. What does it actually feel like when you don't cave? When you keep contributing through your 50s, even though you technically don't have to, even though the siren song of early retirement screams in your ear, your portfolio hits $2 million at 55, then $2.5 million at 58. By 60, you're looking at $3 million, maybe more if the market cooperates, if the whales are feeling generous. At this level, the math becomes absurd. 4% withdrawal gives you $120,000 a year. That's not scraping by. That's living comfortably, traveling the world, helping your kids secure their own futures, and still leaving a 7-figure inheritance, a dynasty of wealth. You didn't just retire. You built a machine that generates wealth while you sleep, a perpetual motion device of capital that will outlive you, continuing its relentless march through generations. That's the difference between cashing out early, succumbing to temptation, and staying the course. One version of you retires at 60 with freedom. The other retires at 60, wishing they'd been more patient, more disciplined, more of a shark and less of a hamster. But I want to address the elephant in the room, the thing that keeps people working long after the math says they can stop. It's not actually about the money. It's about identity. If you've spent 30 years defining yourself by your career, by your productivity, by your role in the corporate hierarchy, the idea of walking away feels like erasing yourself. You're not just retiring from a job. You're retiring from being useful, from being important, from being you. That's why so many people with $3 million in the bank still show up to work every Monday. They're not there because they need the paycheck. They're there because they don't know who they are without it. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Your portfolio can't fix that. You can have $10 million, a king's ransom, and still feel utterly empty if you've never figured out what you actually want your life to be about. This is the final boss of financial independence. Not the math, not the market, not the predatory whales. It's the existential question of what you do with your time when nobody is paying you to do anything. So if you're anywhere on this journey, whether you're at $50,000, still pushing that boulder, or you're at $1.5 million, wrestling with your identity, the strategy is the same. Automate everything. Contribute consistently, relentlessly. Ignore the noise, the talking heads, the market gurus promising instant riches. Don't touch the goddamn snowball. And while you're grinding through the push phase, while you're bleeding for every inch of progress, start building a life outside of work that you'd actually want to live full time, because the portfolio will get there. The math is relentless. It is an unfeeling, inevitable force. But if you arrive at financial independence, at the promised land, and realize you have no hobbies, no relationships that truly nourish you, and no purpose beyond the pursuit of money, you didn't win. You just traded one prison for another, a gilded cage for a corporate cubicle. The goal isn't just a number. It's a life where the number stops mattering because you've built something worth living even without it. That's when you know you're actually free. Look, nobody's going to throw you a parade when you hit your first $100,000. There's no certificate, no trophy, no moment where the universe acknowledges that you just did something most people will never do. You'll just log into your brokerage account one random Tuesday, see 6 figures, and probably feel nothing. Because you've been staring at spreadsheets for 8 years. Your soul's slowly desensitized. But that's the point. The activation isn't supposed to feel like winning the lottery. It's supposed to feel inevitable, a mechanical consequence of your unwavering discipline. Because you built a system that doesn't require motivation or inspiration or market timing. You built something that works, whether you're paying attention or not. The boring middle phase, the part where you're somewhere between broken and free, that's not a waiting room. That's where you figure out who you actually are when money stops being the main character in your story, when the market's roar becomes background noise. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. The people who make it to real wealth, the kind that lasts, the kind that grants true freedom, they're not the ones obsessed with their net worth. They're the ones who got so focused on building a life they didn't want to escape that the portfolio just happened in the background. The snowball rolled. They barely noticed. So if you're still in the push phase, grinding it out, watching your account move like continental drift, don't stop. You're not behind. You're exactly where the math says you should be in the brutal, beautiful crucible of creation. And if you're already past the activation point, sitting on $500,000 or more, don't get stupid now. Don't fall for the psychological traps. The finish line isn't a number. It's the moment you realize you don't need to keep score anymore because you've already built something that outlives the game itself.